bells of the past, how beautifully they ring. Mission bells whose echoes lured the first white settlers to California. But it was the early explorers Caprillo, Vizcaino, Portola, and the immortal Father Serra who blazed those trails before them. California's only inhabitants at that time were the Indians, a people whom Father Serra had already grown to love during his earlier years in Mexico. In no time at all, he had them mixing clay and molding bricks to be used in the building of his missions. Missions which had their beginning in boyhood dreams on the island of Majorca. And even later, when he was a neophyte to the order of St. Francis in old Spain, he still had envisioned a chain of missions as beautiful as San Diego de Alcalá of San Diego, which became a reality in the year 1769, and the first pearl upon the rosary of Junipero Serra, father of the California missions. Today, her bells are a monument to his memory. Thus began the era of Spanish missions and the martyrdom of California padres. Mission San Luis Rey de Francia happens to be the 18th on the chain of 21. Known as the King of Missions and built in the shape of a cross, it was the largest and the richest of them all. Amid its flower-strewn valley is also the school of the Franciscan priesthood. Probably the most famous of all the missions because of its miracle of swallows is that of San Juan Capistrano. It is the oldest church in California. The foundation of this lovely mission was supplied by the Indians, who dragged heavy stones by hand from a distance of 4 miles away. The ruins of its 1812 earthquake has been the lighting place of the swallows every March 19th, a world-famed phenomenon. Near the Rio de los Temblores, or the River of Earthquakes, the mission of San Gabriel Archangel was founded in the year 1771. During the height of its glory, it could boast of 8,000 neophytes. So great was the talent of the Indian neophytes that their paintings still remain after 150 years. The rear entrance of this old chapel overlooks a patio that was once the scene of much activity, for it was from this old fountain that the Indians were kept busy in supplying the kitchen and cannery needs. Only a short distance away are the soap kilns, where thousands of gallons of fat were rendered in one operation. While faraway vistas are still purpled with morning mists, the pigeons have already arisen to greet the day. San Gabriel's feathered creatures, like their human counterparts, seldom ever exhibit any of their naughty inner behavior, as this little pigeon is doing openly for everyone to see. Here again, one may admire the culture of the early Spanish padres. In olden times, the mission of San Fernando, Rey de España, was a welcome sight to the weary travelers, for here they could always stop to rest and sleep the night through on its rawhide beds. Peace awaits all who wish to rest in its garden of memories. Another on the chain link of missions is that of San Buenaventura, which was founded in the year 1782. At that time, the beloved Padre Serra had already reached the ripe old age of 70. Though lame most of his life, he still trudged afoot the weary miles of El Camino Real. The beautiful mission of Santa Barbara marks the same long route of El Camino Real, or King's Highway, which was trod by Father Serra. Though partially wrecked by an earthquake which crumbled its walls and knocked down its bells, its altar lights have burned over 160 years. Still traveling along the pathway of the brown-robed and sandal-footed padres, we are led through the beautiful valley of Encino, or Oaks, to the mission of Santa Inez. Just leaving the door of its lovely and age-old chapel, we catch one of the brown-robed and sandal-footed Franciscans, none other than the kindly Brother Alexius, whose generous hospitality welcomes the stranger today as others have done in the past. The peaceful old mission of Santa Inez has always had a special welcome for all strangers and a welcome for all denominations. traced in a pattern of enchantment is its patio of lilies and fish pond. Here was the mission of missions for the deeply religious Chumash Indians, and the only mission known on the California chain that has ever honored the burial of an Indian within its church. Another mission linked to the past of the gentle Chumash Indians is the rambling structure of La Purísima Concepción. Founded in 1787, it sprawls out over a world-famous valley, a valley of myriad-colored flowers, the Valley of Lompoc, a scene to provide lingering memories. The founding of the Spanish missions and fortresses in California furnishes an epic in American history. Indians with smallpox were isolated in this old infirmary, and during the year of 1818, 500 deaths took place beneath its roofs. The Padres taught their Indians to build huge reservoirs which were used for impounding water, and they also had them dig irrigation canals, with some running a distance of 7 miles. Soon their vast holdings of land blossomed forth into field upon field of waving grain. With the decades of patient Indian labor from sunrise to sunset, the missions themselves grew fabulously rich, and with all for the crown of old Spain. Here one sees the laundry pool where clothes were pounded clean upon its ledge. And these, the memoirs of heroic sacrifices made by Padres and Indians alike. Another of the iridescent pearls which was added to the rosary of Father Serra is the gleaming white mission of San Luis Obispo de Tolosa. Founded in 1772, the pious may still kneel and worship as did the Padres and Indians too of 150 years ago. Each mission along the 600-mile pathway of the old El Camino Real was carefully calculated for making them a day's jornado or journey apart. This time we had the mission of San Miguel Archangel. More colorful than most in its profusion of flowers, its dado is also the most authentic. The burro is a pampered pet of the present-day Franciscans, but in olden times he was the slow and plodding power behind the millstones of every mission. Daily he was used for the grinding of their wheat, and daily he plodded round and round the grist mill. In a setting which has remained unchanged for nearly 200 years stands the mission of San Antonio de Padua. This beautiful old Spanish structure, surrounded on all sides by an oak-mantled valley, was the third on the chain of Franciscan missions. And here we have the devout Brother Peters. Used by the missions in those faraway years was the Spanish carreta, or cart, with its huge and hand-hewn wooden wheels. Shadowed with the same silence and loneliness from which it derived its name are the ruins of the Soledad mission. Today its crumbling old walls are but a hollow edifice, hallowed by the spirits of the Padres long gone. But once its bells rang the Angelus too in that twilight of long ago, and the twilight of its past. And to set the glow of their candles on high altars, the zealous Padres struggled and climbed the mountainous terrain. On the beautiful surf-sprayed coast of Carmelo and surrounded by flowers that burn with color, the mission of San Carlos Borromeo de Carmelo raises her dome to meet the vast blue canopy of the sky. Like a jewel in a perfect setting, it was the fairest of all the missions to Father Serra. It was his home in life, as it is of now, for here lie his earthly remains. Today, the untarnished glory of Father Junipero Serra's memory and his beloved mission of San Carlos Borromeo de Carmelo are kept alive by the Reverend Father Monsignor O'Connell. Like a highly polished mirror, the beauty of this old ecclesiastical capital of Alta California unerringly reflects the same beauty of soul as that which was known of its founder, Father Junipero Serra. Traveling farther northward, on the old El Camino Real, which extended from Guatemala to San Francisco, we are rewarded by this charming view of the San Juan Bautista mission. Near the southern end of San Francisco Bay is another of the missions. the Santa Clara de Assis, and from its humble beginnings has sprung the great university we know today of Santa Clara, and her bells still toll after 150 years. Still following the magical and legendary trail of the Padres, the past is reborn in the deeply shadowed mission of San Jose de Guadalupe. During the tragic years when Mexico took California from Spain, both the Padres and their Indians were driven from their missions. But despite the tragic history of the missions, today they are monuments to the vision of a pioneering man of God. Another of the monuments is the mission of San Francisco de Assis, and built during the American Revolution. Known as Mission Dolores today in honor of Our Lady of Sorrows, her burial grounds, lush with brilliant flowers, is considered the most beautiful of all. The mission of San Francisco de Solano completed the last pearl on the rosary of the missions, and with it the bells of the Angelus rang from one cross-crowned tower to another, all the way from San Diego's Harbor of the Sun to Sonoma in the Valley of the Seven Moons. And tinging the present with their sweet music, the bells of the past still ring.